Hi there, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the CGS Helios Direct Thread, which is a 5.56 rifle suppressor that is 3D printed and made from titanium. Now, I've actually owned this suppressor for going on 2 years now, and the reason I purchased it was because prior to this, on this specific setup, this is my primary rifle setup. This is a 11.5 Type A Pro, which is the older Pros, which are all forged. Now I believe you can get them in forged or billet. So this is a gun that I've had for a few years. Prior to having this suppressor on here, I had a Dead Air Sandman S. And I was looking at trying to reduce some of the weight because this is the main rifle I take to go do courses. And that extra 20 plus ounces of the Sandman S and the muzzle device at the front, while not a ton, when you're shooting, multi-thousand round courses over a few days, it does start to get a little tiresome. So I suppose, you could go down in the comments and say, just lift more weights. Yes, that's definitely an option. And I'm in the gym as much as I can. But having less weight at the front of the gun is something that I wanted to take a look at. So when I first saw this can appear on the market a few years ago, I was fully in the QD camp. You mean the quick detach, which in reality, quick detach is kind of a misnomer because once a suppressor is shot a little bit, it's very hot and you're not going to be quick detaching it at all. So I've heard it said by the guys at the 1911 Syndicate, maybe it's a quick attach method. So when I was looking to get rid of weight, I realized that I wanted to get something that was going to reduce as much weight as possible. Now, this is a direct thread can, and one of the things that people have said in the past is that direct thread direct thread suppressors can walk themselves off while shooting. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, you saw how hard that was for me to just break this loose. This can has not had that issue at all. So we'll start off by saying that direct thread, in my opinion, isn't less secure than a QD setup. But let's talk about this can a little bit more. So first off, basic specs on this can. It is 10.2 ounces, give or take, when you first get it. It is 3D printed from titanium, and we're going to talk about the positives and negatives of titanium shortly. And it is 6.3 inches long. Now, this suppressor was replacing my Dead Air Sandman S. And the reason that I had the Sandman S is because it's known for being very durable with its stellite baffles, and I've really been a fan of the chemo attachment system, but I wanted to lose some weight. So just to give you an idea how much weight I was able to save at the end of my barrel, the Sandman S with the muzzle device comes in at just over 22 ounces, whereas the Helios Direct Thread, the Helios DT 5.56, weighs in at 10.2 ounces per the factory. So that is over half of the weight of this suppressor, 12 ounces off the end of your gun. And like I said, if you're doing, courses, multi-day courses with a lot of round count, that extra weight at the end of the gun as you're swinging it, holding up, doing ready up drills all day long, you do want to have it as light as possible. So that was my primary reason for switching to a titanium can. And then direct thread, the reason that I went for direct thread is the lowest amount of weight possible. And also, I'm kind of lucky in that I'm an SOT and I can just order suppressors and get them shipped to me for every gun that I have. So this was going to be a dedicated suppressor for that gun that's now on the ground there, the Type A 11.5. And so I didn't really feel the need to have a muzzle device and shoot it with or without the can on it. Now the final couple specs I have for you, it is 1/2 by 28 threads, so 5.56 standard threading, and it does have multiple end cap options. You have vented or fully sealed. I run the fully sealed because I'm going for the maximum amount of suppression, and I found that the back pressure and gassiness coming back through my gas system is not bad on this. In fact, if you see it side by side with the Sandman S, it is substantially less gas coming back through the system. I'm sorry that I'm comparing everything to the Sandman, but This is what I was using before on that specific gun, and the amount of gas and the suppression rating was really what I was going for. Is weight, suppression rating, less gas. Now, before I get into my opinions on this suppressor and why you may or may not consider it for your next purchase, just go to PewScience. This guy, Jay, the amount of science and information that he's putting out there on suppressors is going to take suppressor technology and companies to the next level because they have to. There's actual science out there backing stuff up. So when you're looking for a suppressor, I highly recommend you go there because you have the suppressors aren't cheap. You have a $200 tax stamp plus the unconstitutional tax stamp and wait, which is like 9 months right now to get your tax stamp approved. Don't waste time. Go there. However, he does not have a review on the direct thread version of the Helios. He has the QD and I believe the QD, the 762 version, but he does not have the direct thread 556, and this is different than the other two. Now, I will say there are going to be some similarities, I'm sure, just because it is a similar design. The sound suppression rating is decent on both of those cans, but something like this isn't just about the sound suppression. It's also about eliminating that weight and managing back pressure at the same time. So until he gets a review on this specific can, this is what you'll have to deal with. But I'm going to leave all the scientific stuff to Jay because that guy is awesome. So what are the benefits of the Helios DT? Well, I really see there being 3 of them, and that's kind of convoluted. Number 1 is weight. Okay, 10.2 ounces is very, very light. I know there are some, like Psycho has a can out that's 7.6 ounces. That's also titanium, but at 10.2 ounces, and the way that CGS does focus on rugged durability in these cans is something that you want to look at. Is that trade-off of weight and durability. So I have had thousands of rounds through this can. I do not have an exact round count, but multiple courses. Like I said, I've had it, I believe, for 2 years now, and this can has not failed me. It works very, very well. I will say, after 2 years, it is a little bit heavier now. I just weighed it, and it's at 11 ounces. I didn't weigh it when I first got it on this scale, so I don't know how much weight it's actually gained. If it's gained 0.8 of an ounce in fouling, but that is something that they do say in the manual, is that you can clean it and put it in a solvent for 24 to 48 hours and then, dry it out or shoot a mag through it to break loose everything that could have been in there, the fouling. So that's something I'm going to do and see if I can get the weight to come down on the can. But yeah, it is lightweight. The second benefit is direct thread. 1/2 by 28, very, very simple. It's been around for a long time and it is very secure. I have yet to have this suppressor walk off or really loosen up in any meaningful way after thousands of rounds of shooting with that direct thread. So once again, it's going to be lighter and simpler. Now, some people may say that's a con because you're not going to be shooting your gun without any type of muzzle device on it. So really, it does make your gun a dedicated host for this suppressor. But in my mind, that is definitely a positive. The third positive about this can is that it is relatively average back pressure, and I would say above average suppression, but I'll say, sound reduction, because I don't have all the equipment that somebody like Jay does to do all the audible testing. All I can do is shoot it side by side with my other suppressors and see how it sounds. And I'll say that this, to my ear and to the camera, is definitely quieter than the Sandman series. Seems right up there with my OSS, my Huxworks can. Now, people get confused. I have the original Huxworks the HXQD 556. It's not the Flow 556 that's out now. It's the OG one from back in the day, which is the stainless steel outside titanium core. So for me, the sound seems to be about the same as those. So it's about moderate to good suppression, and then back pressure is definitely less. So the gas back in my face is less than the Sandman series, really less than any of the dead airs that I've shot, and I'll be talking about that, all the cans in updated videos coming soon. but it's not quite as low as the Huxworks flow through. But I'm using the solid end cap because I haven't had trouble with fouling. I've never had an issue where my gun gets super sluggish. So with the sealed end cap, I think it's a good balance between um, sound suppression, weight, and gas is actually flowing through and not coming back into the gun. So definitely a positive there. Now, on the flip side, I'm not going to say negatives. I'm going to say considerations because everything in life has trade-offs. The first is sparking. And this is a titanium can, and titanium does have a tendency to spark and flash. This can specifically because of the 3D printed nature of it. When you first get it, it almost, I don't want to say it looked like dragon's breath, but there was a lot of sparking that came out the beginning at the first few hundred rounds. The manual says after a magazine, it took a pretty decent firing schedule before the sparks really stopped. Every now and then, if the can gets hot again, I don't know if it's going to be, fouling that's breaking loose, but it can have some sparks coming out the end. So that's something to consider. Also, titanium, once it gets up to like 860 degrees, they say stop. So while it may be full auto rated, it's not going to, be a suppressor that you're just going to be, blasting and blasting away with. But for most classes, for most people's uses, and really any type of real world scenario that I can think of, it's going to survive and work just fine. And like I said, I've been through many, many courses with this over the last few years, and it has worked out very well. Haven't had any issues. Okay, so second consideration, I consider this a positive, but it may be a consideration for you, is the fact that it's direct thread, and now your gun becomes a dedicated suppressor host. So if you don't have the suppressor, you're not going to be shooting it. If you travel from state to state and really think that you need to, talk to the ATF every time that you do that, well, then that's on you to make sure that that's what you do with your suppressor. So you can't just take it off to travel from state to state. If you're shooting competitions, I don't know a lot of competitive shooters that use suppressors in like 3-gun competitions. Traveling around may be an issue with that. So that's a consideration with direct thread. So bottom line, would I recommend the CGS Helios direct thread? Yes, as long as you're looking for a direct thread suppressor that has good sound suppression, that's durable, and is good in back pressure mitigation when compared to other solid end cap suppressors. So I know that's a lot of ifs, but when it comes to suppressors, there's trade-offs with everything. So if you're looking for all of those things, this is the can to get. CGS Helios Direct Thread.